The anime begins by presenting the story of a world created by a goddess, where 9 different races live together: Dragonutes, Elves, Onifolk, Dwarves, Demonkin, Dark Elves, Centaurs, Beastfolk, and humans. Among them was Light, a young human who dreamed of becoming an adventurer to give his family a better life. Determined, he said goodbye to his hometown and set off in search of money and power. Upon arriving in a large city, Light was pushed around by the crowd but kept moving forward until he found the Adventurers Guild. As soon as he entered, he introduced himself to the receptionist, who asked if he wanted to register as a new adventurer. He confirmed, and the woman explained that every beginner started at the lowest rank, rank F, then asked if he had any special skill. Light said he had a skill called Unlimited Gacha, capable of summoning random cards. To demonstrate, he activated his power and made a bent fork appear. The receptionist was speechless, trying to justify himself. Light said that the gacha was useful, but when he continued the tests, he only managed to summon a rotten apple and a piece of moldy bread. Embarrassed, he explained that this didn't usually happen. The receptionist confirmed that he indeed fit perfectly into rank F. After receiving his adventurer card, Light asked for some missions. She told him to look at the quest board, but noticed by his expression that he couldn't read. Because of that, she offered him the jobs no one wanted: cutting grass, carrying dirt, and collecting firewood, warning him that the payment would be low. Even so, Light gladly accepted the simple tasks. After a long day of hard work, he earned enough money to rent a room at an inn. However, before he could rest, 3 beastmen surrounded him, knocked him down, and laughed at him. The leader took the money he had earned, mocking him for causing such a fuss over so little. Light asked them to leave him alone, but the wolf man punched him, throwing him to the ground. Laughing, the group walked away, leaving him hurt and humiliated while the crowd ignored him. Among everyone there, only one elf approached to help him. Gently, she hugged him to calm him down, ignoring the stares and laughter around them. Surprised by her attitude, Light allowed her to help. The elf introduced herself as Sasha, a member of the Concord of Tribes, a group of adventurers formed by representatives of the 9 races. By her side were Garu, a beastman, and other companions: Drago, Diablo, Oboro, Nano, Sion, and Santor. Sasha explained that they only needed 1 human to complete the group, and Garu said their goal was to create unity among all races, fighting against prejudice and building a fairer world. Light was moved by the idea that they needed him and accepted the invitation with enthusiasm. Shortly after, the group began exploring a dungeon called Abyss. During their journey, giant snakes appeared and attacked Light. Drago quickly protected him, while Sasha took down another serpent with her bow, warning him to be more careful. Sitting beside him, she treated his wounds gently. The others began teasing her for acting so protective. Embarrassed, Sasha tried to hide it, saying she was only taking care of a teammate. But the group kept laughing, making her blush. Drago reassured Light, saying that making good tea was contribution enough. Amid jokes, everyone went deeper into the dungeon. When they reached a dead end, Drago asked them to stop. Light thought they were taking a break and began preparing tea, but Drago interrupted, saying they didn't need him because they were expelling him from the group. Light thought it was a joke, but Drago's expression remained cold. Garu confirmed it, saying they didn't need him anymore. Sasha, who had once shown kindness, now looked at him with contempt. Sion and Nano also mocked him, calling him useless, while Diablo and Oboro felt relieved to get rid of what they called dead weight. Confused, Light asked why they were being so cruel after all their kindness. Garu revealed that it had all been an act. They only wanted him to join the group. When Light asked why, Drago explained that they had recruited him because of his special ability, believing he was a maestro capable of summoning valuable powers. But after realizing that unlimited gacha was worthless, they decided to get rid of him. Light tried to argue, saying that even if his ability was unpredictable, he could still help, but Garu just laughed, calling him a failure and saying that a talentless human had no place among them. Thus, abandoned and disillusioned, Light realized that all their camaraderie had been nothing but a lie. Sasha thought they had already taken too long to get rid of him. She felt enormous relief even knowing they could obtain a maestro's blood. Just imagining marrying someone as inferior as Light made her entire body shiver. Light was speechless after hearing that, and Drago decided to end things once and for all. He ordered Garou to finish off the boy before other adventurers arrived, and only then did Light realize the real danger he was in. Seeing their threatening looks, Light understood they intended to kill him. Drago stated they had received orders to eliminate any potential problem. Garou drew his wolverine claws and lunged forward, slashing Light's face. The boy panicked as he saw the blood dripping down. While the group watched coldly, he ran away screaming, overcome by fear. Garou mocked him, saying he could run all he wanted, he would just end up as food for the monsters of the abyss. But Sasha shot an arrow that struck his leg, stopping any chance of escape. Light fell to the ground, and Garou amused himself with his pain. He kicked him hard in the stomach, sending him forward, and kept beating him mercilessly until Sasha interrupted, reminding him that they needed to make it look like an accident. Then Garou raised his claw for the final blow. Facing death approaching, Light crawled, desperately trying to stay alive. Garou grew excited at the sight, watching the weak boy struggle for his life. Suddenly, Light's hand touched a teleportation trap. Drago shouted for Garou to kill him before the spell activated. But the trap surrounded him in Light and transported him to safety before they could reach him. Light opened his eyes in another part of the dungeon, still gravely wounded. He believed he would be devoured by a monster at any moment. That moment of despair made him think of his family, and tears rolled down his face. He remembered the initial kindness of the Concord of Tribes group and couldn't understand how they had become so cruel. Anger replaced the sadness. He didn't even know what this maestro they mentioned was, nor from whom they had received the order to kill him. The confusion turned into fury, and Light swore revenge. Determined, he stood up, but then heard a sound behind him. When he turned, he saw a level 1000 monster staring at him. Light wondered what such a powerful creature was doing there and realized the trap had teleported him to the deepest level of the abyss. The monster approached, and he started thinking of a way to escape. Desperate, he activated his unlimited gacha ability, summoning a large magic circle in front of him. To his surprise, Light saw the circle release an intense aura, and then a girl dressed as a maid appeared. In the blink of an eye, she completely destroyed the monster. Before Light's stunned gaze, the girl cleaned all the creature's remains with a simple wave of her arm. She approached and knelt before him, healing each of his wounds with magic. She apologized for acting without permission, saying she couldn't stand seeing him hurt, and humbly asked him to tell her his name. Light introduced himself. Enchanted, the girl repeated his name several times and declared that, according to the maid's code of honor, she swore total loyalty to him. Not understanding who she was, Light asked her name, and she replied that she was May, the ever-seeking maiden, level 9999. May explained that she was a super ultra rare card from Light's unlimited gacha. The boy said his gacha only produced trash and found it impossible that someone so incredible could have come from it. May replied that she was just a simple maid and asked him to call her only May. Seeing her sad expression, Light agreed. She smiled and thanked him. Soon after, she asked to examine his gacha ability, and Light was surprised to learn that she possessed the appraisal skill. May explained that this was only one of her many abilities and asked permission to analyze his energy. When Light accepted, her eyes shone as she examined his magical flow, revealing several hidden layers of protection. May was impressed by the ability's power. She said the gacha seemed useless because Light had been using it in places without mana, in the abyss. However, the massive concentration of magical energy fueled the gacha, increasing his chances of obtaining rare cards. She explained the levels of the unlimited gacha, from the highest extra rare and super ultra rare to the lowest, normal and error. Light still didn't fully understand, so May told him that on the surface, he would never get good summons because of the lack of mana. She praised him for discovering the gacha's potential and daring to enter the abyss to try to draw a rare card, but pointed out that it was extremely dangerous to do so alone. Light said he hadn't come alone, he had descended with a group, but they betrayed and tortured him. Remembering what he had suffered, Light began to cry, revealing everything to May. He said he only wanted to live honestly to help his family. May watched him carefully, feeling the weight of the pain he carried after so much cruelty and betrayal. At last, Light fell to his knees, declaring that he would never forgive those cruel people who had hurt him. Mai wrapped him in an embrace, trying to comfort him. In her arms, Light gradually calmed down and stopped crying. With a determined look, Mai said that she might never fully understand his pain, but she would use all her strength to make the Concord of Tribes pay for what they had done. Light looked at her, surprised, as Mai promised to place each of their heads before him without hesitation. He stopped her before she could go through with the idea. Mai knew Light had a kind heart but believed that group didn't deserve any mercy. Even so, Light replied that he had ended up in that situation because of his own weakness. He declared that he didn't intend to use her power for revenge, but to become stronger on his own and punish them all with his own hands. Light thought Mai would consider his words naive, but when he turned, he saw her kneeling before him, promising to support him in everything he did. After Mai said she completely trusted his abilities, Light gave a sincere smile. She answered with another smile before Light activated the gacha again, trying to summon another powerful card in the abyss. As she watched him, Mai saw determination growing in his eyes. Surrounded by dense energy, Light gathered all the mana of the abyss, and huge magic circles began to shine around him, marking the beginning of a new, power-filled summoning. The story moves forward 3 years later. In the depths of the abyss, Light had built his own kingdom, a place where everyone respected and admired him. As he walked through the city, a resident approached to warn that the snack supplies were running low. Light replied that he would inform the administrator about the issue. This had been happening because the population had grown a lot in recent years, and perhaps it was time to review the entire logistics system of the kingdom. Curious, Light asked what the other members of the quartet were doing. Mei explained that everyone was diligently carrying out their duties. Yuki, for example, was on an exploration mission in the upper parts of the abyss, drawing new maps. Light thought that was an excellent decision, even though the surface forests were full of monsters. For a creature tamer like Aoyuki, that posed no danger. Then he asked about Ellie's progress, and Mei replied that she was doing very well, dedicating herself to developing new spells according to Light's grand plans. The king commented that there were many projects happening at the same time and hoped Ellie wouldn't end up overworked. Mei assured him there was nothing to worry about since everyone felt happy to serve him. Soon, he asked about Mizuna. Mei explained that she was patrolling the castle gardens as usual. Mizuna was a hand-to-hand combat specialist, but aside from that, there weren't many important tasks for her at the moment. Light thought it was great to have her around since her presence made the castle livelier. Later, as he crossed another room in the castle, Light was greeted by Jack. Mei scolded him, saying he should treat the master with more respect, but Light only smiled and said it was fine, as he saw Jack as an older brother. He said goodbye to Mei and told her he was going to train. The two began an intense physical training session, exchanging blows with speed and precision. Meanwhile, Mizuna continued her patrol through the castle. Some maids praised her for her good work and asked for a favor. They wanted her to check a very important and secret place, one they weren't allowed to enter. Mizuna went to the indicated place and knocked on the door. To her surprise, Mei appeared. She asked what Mizuna was doing there, in Master Light's room. Mizuna replied that she was just doing her patrol. Mei tried to send her away, claiming the room was safe, but Mizuna insisted and asked why she was inside. Slightly embarrassed, Mei reminded her that she was the head maid and that it was her duty to make sure the master's room was always spotless. While speaking, Mizuna entered the room and commented that the bed looked like it had been used recently, as if someone had rolled around and kicked the blankets while smelling the pillows. Nervously, Mei made up an excuse. She said she was the one who did that, as it was part of her unique bed-making style. Mizuna got curious and asked her to explain better, but Mei refused, saying she couldn't reveal her professional secrets. Mizuna thought that was amazing, as if it were a special ability meant only for household tasks, and said that Mei truly lived up to her reputation as the master's first and most important summon. Mei breathed a sigh of relief that Mizuna believed everything without suspecting a thing. Before leaving, Mizuna remembered a message from the maids for Mei. She handed her a letter that read, "We demand that all maids have the right to clean Master Light's room. You cannot monopolize this duty. Vote yes to remove the tyrannical head maid." Mei sighed and said she would deal with it later. To thank her, she handed Nazuna a few coins, and the girl happily left to spend them. At the market, she came across several options but didn't get confused. Her stomach already knew what it wanted: dorayaki and milk. Later, Nazuna went to the castle balcony and found Aoyuki there. She asked what her companion was doing back. Since she thought Aoyuki was still exploring the surface forests, Aoyuki only replied with a meow. Holding her dorayaki, Nazuna said she wouldn't share it. Aoyuki meowed again. Nazuna commented that she could keep meowing all she wanted, but she didn't understand what that meant. She asked if Aoyuki had found any strong monsters during the exploration and offered help, saying that even though she was summoned later, she considered herself the older and stronger sister. Aoyuki calmly explained that it wasn't like that she had just finished the map Mei had requested and returned to deliver it. Nazuna laughed and congratulated her with a friendly pat on the back before returning to her patrol. This time, she decided to check the throne room. She felt sad for not having seen Master Light that day, and missing him, she approached the throne and leaned against it, daydreaming. She ended up bumping into part of the decoration and breaking it. Panicking, she tried to put the piece back in place and ran out of the room. Meanwhile, Light continued training with Jack until his companion suggested they end for the day and take a bath. Light agreed. Inside the bath, Jack commented that the master had almost completely mastered using his own body as a weapon. Few in the abyss could face him on equal terms, and on the surface, that number would be even smaller. Even so, he warned him never to let his guard down. Light understood the advice. The surface world was full of mysteries, but he had no intention of being careless. There was still a purpose he needed to fulfill his revenge. Later, Mei gathered the maids because of the letter Nazuna had delivered. The young women apologized, saying they just wanted to ease their boss's workload since she had been very busy. Mei, however, rejected the request and assigned them to clean the corridor leading to the throne room by hand, without magic or tools. The maids protested, saying it would be impossible to clean such a large corridor. But Mei replied that it was possible and that a maid's path begins with a single step. She announced that she would soon depart for the surface on a mission ordered by Light and expected everyone to keep the castle spotless during her absence. Nazuna was walking through the city streets, carefully observing a gauntlet she had wanted to buy for a long time. While examining the item, Ellie approached, curious, asking what she was doing there and if she had come looking for sweets. Nazuna firmly denied it, explaining that she was just admiring the gauntlet. Then she asked what Ellie was doing in the city, since she thought she would be busy with some construction or inspection. Ellie replied that she had finished her work ahead of schedule, so she was back. In a teasing tone, she called Nazuna an idiot for not realizing something so simple. Nazuna immediately defended herself, saying she wasn't an idiot and could prove it after all. She knew all the multiplication tables, but when she tried to recite the table of number 1, she got it completely wrong. Seeing that, Ellie thought her companion's stupidity truly knew no limits. Nazuna retorted that people who called others stupid were the truly stupid ones. The provocation worked, and Ellie, irritated, replied that Light considered her an essential part of his revenge plan. Unlike Nazuna and her tiny brain, with a tone of superiority, she added that, a few days ago, she had tea with Light to discuss the progress of the plan, and that next time, she intended to reserve a private space for them to have dinner together with some nighttime entertainment included. Nazuna thought that was unfair and said she also wanted to have tea with Light. Ellie asked if she only wanted the tea, and Nazuna replied yes, not understanding the point of the question. Ellie thought to herself that yes, there was something hotter than tea involved and wondered whether Nazuna was just naive or completely childish. Ignoring the teasing tone, Nazuna commented that Ellie was amazing with magic but weak in hand-to-hand combat. She said that if Ellie ever needed help, she could count on her for any fight. After that, she said goodbye and went back to her patrol. Meanwhile, the castle maids were furious. The punishment imposed by Mei seemed unfair, since all they wanted was to clean Light's room actually, so they could smell his sheets and pillows. They complained that the head maid was always overloaded with tasks and didn't understand why she wouldn't let anyone else take care of that room. They recalled that Mei was Light's first summon, and that it took 3 months before Aoyuki was summoned as the second. Consumed by curiosity and jealousy, They began to imagine what May might have done with Light during that time alone. Their assumptions became increasingly bold, to the point that they wished, out of envy and anger, for a curse to fall upon her. That was when May entered the room, having overheard part of their words while passing through the corridor. The maids tried to cover it up, flattering her in sweet tones, but it was useless. In the end, they confessed they were jealous of her relationship with Light. May sighed and explained that during the 3 months before Ayuki's summoning, Master Light had spent all his time reading and practicing different martial arts styles. There had been no room for any of the fantasies they were imagining. She also said she had come because she thought she might have been too harsh in ordering them to clean the entire corridor. But upon seeing their behavior, she realized she was wrong. Then she ordered them to clean the throne room as well. The maids tried to beg for mercy, but May only replied that they could clean the room in the same free time they used to talk badly about her, exactly as they had been doing before being caught. With no way out, the maids immediately began cleaning the throne room. However, one of them accidentally bumped into the decoration Nazuna had broken earlier, knocking it over again. The noise made it seem like the poor girl was the one responsible for the damage. Meanwhile, Nazuna was already lying down, closing her eyes, wishing she could see Master Light the next day. The next morning, Light summoned Nazuna, Ellie, and Ayuki. When they met, he gently patted Ayuki, which sparked jealousy in the other two, but the meeting was interrupted by a hellhound that appeared before them. Just the creature's presence made Light tremble, a reflection of the traumas he still carried from the past. The 3 girls instantly changed posture, ready to eliminate the monster, but Light calmed them down. Given their power, that dog looked like nothing more than a harmless pup. Then Light revealed the reason for summoning them. He had just received a message from May. It was time to put the plan into action. The prey had finally taken the bait. After 3 years of preparation, the time had come to serve the first course of revenge. The scene then shifts to the Beastmen Federation, in the City of Wolves, where Garou was practically worshipped by his kind. While he was being revered, Garou noticed a human collecting trash. With a look of disdain, he humiliated the man, spat in his face, and ordered him to get out of his sight. Soon after, he headed to a bar, where he continued to be treated like a true celebrity, the pride of the Beastfolk slums. Everyone talked about how he had gone from a nameless orphan to one of the main candidates to become the next leader of the Wolfmen. His followers surrounded him, full of admiration, dreaming of being like him. Garou, consumed by his own fame, said that such a life wasn't for just anyone. He told them that, to reach the top, one had to fully trust their instincts and always seize the best jobs. That was how, according to him, he had achieved everything he had. One of his subordinates asked if he was referring to jobs like the one from 3 years ago. Garou remembered the time they had formed a fake group called the Concord of Tribes, but avoided giving more details, considering it a secret that should remain buried. In his mind, he recalled that job as an excellent one. He had become famous and rich after eliminating a young human suspected of being a master. They had never found him again after he was teleported. But Garou was sure the boy couldn't have survived that dungeon with such mediocre skills. However, thinking about it made his expression grow serious. He wondered what exactly those so-called masters were, the ones nations were so desperately searching for. The very thought made his tail stand on end, and he realized it might be better not to get involved with something so mysterious. Determined to push those thoughts away, he ordered more drinks. At that moment, a woman appeared, apologizing for the interruption. It was May. She asked if he was Garou from the Concord of Tribes. The man confirmed with a nod. May introduced herself as a servant who had sworn absolute loyalty to Master Light. She explained that he possessed noble blood and that she had been searching for him for a long time. Only recently had she discovered that Light had joined the Concord of Tribes and explored the abyss. She then asked Garou to take her to the last place where Light had been seen. The Wolfman found it strange, questioning if she had any idea how dangerous that place was. May replied that it wouldn't be a request without a reward and opened a briefcase full of gold bars. Garou immediately sensed it looked like a trap, but judging her to be just a fragile human, he accepted the deal. Pretending to be cooperative, he said that if it was to help a former comrade, he would do his best. After a month of traveling, Mei was already showing signs of exhaustion. While she struggled to keep going, Garou plotted in silence. He planned to take her to the middle layer of the abyss to commit atrocities against her. When they arrived, he said that a monster had attacked Light at that very spot. He told her that the boy, wounded, fell and was sucked into a teleportation trap. Mei knelt and began to pray for her master. Behind her, Garou and his henchmen had already blocked the only escape route, leaving her no way out. Suddenly, Mei's expression completely changed. She muttered that it was truly pitiful, betrayed by comrades and left to die in a cold, damp place. She said that if she had been by his side from the beginning, she never would have allowed that to happen. Garou took a step back, startled. Only members of the Concord of Tribes and high-ranking national leaders knew what had happened during that mission. Terrified, he shouted, asking who she worked for. Mei replied coldly that the only person she owed loyalty to was her lord, Light. With hatred in her eyes, she declared that she would make him see the color of his own entrails. A powerful aura began to emanate from her body, so intense that it made Garou tremble. He understood instantly that woman intended to kill him. But before the attack began, a voice echoed through the place. Light appeared, saying that was enough. He stated that Garou was his prey. The wolfman was left speechless upon seeing that Light was still alive. The boy, with a calm and almost taunting expression, said he had returned to take revenge after 3 years. Garou began to laugh, mocking the audacity. He wondered how a mere level 15 human dared to challenge him, a werewolf above level 150. He had no idea how Light had survived, but was grateful for the opportunity to kill him personally. He assured that by taking his body, he would become the greatest among all beastmen. Light replied that Garou surely had many questions, but Garou only boasted, saying that Light and his maid couldn't do anything. Even his subordinates, he claimed, were above level 130. Garou also mocked Light, saying he had a terrible ability and deducing that he must have survived only because the human girl had saved him. Then he gave the order to attack. However, before his henchmen could get close to Light, Mei eliminated them instantly. Light thanked his maid and asked her to block the exit. The remaining subordinates were terrified, saying that all they saw were heads being torn off. Garou, consumed by fear, tried to calm them down, saying that it had only been a surprise attack and that they couldn't lose to an inferior race. Seeing that scene, Light commented that Garou was still the same as ever, trapped in the idea that humans were inferior. He wanted to know if Garou had never considered the possibility that, in truth, the weak ones were them. Garou began to mock humans and ordered Light to look at his level. The boy then explained that each race had its own growth limit, and that this was the main reason for discrimination and contempt toward humans. Garou arrogantly replied that his species had simply been born superior. Light, keeping calm, questioned how he would then explain the 2 heads on the ground. Garou concluded that they must have used some magic item for that and, filled with rage, charged forward with his henchmen. Without moving, Light blocked all the attacks with ease. He slowly approached and, in a cold and provoking tone, asked if that was all he had to offer. Feeling insulted, Garou stood up furiously, pulled out a magic item, and activated it, summoning a legendary beast, the terrifying Fenrir, a mythological creature of level 500. Light sighed, visibly disappointed, saying he had expected something more impressive. He commented that Garou had made all that spectacle just to summon a weak little dog. Garou mocked him, saying that fear must have driven Light insane, and ordered him to beg and crawl for his life, just like he had done 3 years ago. But Light stared him down and declared that he had no intention of taking even a single step back. Enraged for being treated with disdain once again, Garou ordered Fenrir to attack. For a moment, he believed Light had died, but his smile faded when he realized the boy was intact, without even a scratch. Light asked if he didn't feel ashamed. Garou, still in disbelief, couldn't accept that a human had withstood the blow of a level 500 creature. Then Light said it would be his turn to attack. He lamented that Garou dared to call that mutt Fenrir and decided to show him the real one. He used an extremely rare level 9000 magic card and summoned the primordial god of wolves, the true Fenrir. With a single command, the real Fenrir blew a freezing wind and completely destroyed Garou's creature. The werewolf panicked. His ears flattened as he saw a magical beast of such absurd power eliminate his in an instant. Light commented that even he himself could have easily defeated a level 500 creature. Right after that, he revealed his level. Guru was paralyzed when he saw the number 9 and 999. To him, it was impossible. The maximum level of a human should be 100. He accused Light of being a fraud, saying that even after 3 years, he hadn't changed one bit. As if time hadn't passed at all, Light calmly explained that he had stopped his aging with a magical artifact, the Bracelet of Youth. He said he did it so he would never forget the despair, pain, and anger he felt the day he was betrayed by his former comrades. Confused and fearful, Guru began to wonder if that was really the same Light he knew. But he soon decided it didn't matter one way or another. The one before him wanted to kill him, so he threw his weapons to the ground, bowed, and begged for forgiveness. He said he was only following orders from his country and placed all the blame on his subordinates. He tried to appeal to the memory of the times they fought together in the Concord of Tribes, calling him Master Light and pleading for his life. His own henchmen began calling him a coward. Light remained expressionless and said he had a question. He wanted to know everything Guru knew about the class called Master. The werewolf explained that his superiors had only ordered him to find them. Light wanted to know the reason for such a desperate search, but Guru admitted he had no idea. Then the boy asked why they had tried to kill him after discovering he wasn't a master, but Guru still couldn't answer. Light turned the question to the henchmen, and they all began claiming they knew something. Before they could say more, May eliminated them without hesitation. Lying to her master was something that could not be forgiven. Now completely terrified, Guru was questioned again by Light. The boy wanted to know if he would stand any chance of winning in a war against the surface nations, ordering Guru to use the intuition he was so proud of. He warned that if he lied, May's eye of judgment would detect it instantly. Overcome with fear, Guru ended up wetting himself completely. Stuttering, he said that Light was indeed powerful and that he would certainly have a huge advantage at the beginning of a war. But it wouldn't last. He explained that no matter how high Light's level was, he was still just one man. The nations possessed countless weapons and magical devices accumulated over the years. If they used all those resources, not even he would be able to survive. Light agreed, saying that was exactly the conclusion he had reached. There was a limit to what a single person could do. Deciding he still had more questions, he ordered Guru to follow him. Using a teleportation card, he took him directly to his castle. When they arrived, a gigantic army of creatures of various races awaited them. As they walked, everyone bowed before Light. Guru couldn't believe what he was seeing. If someone had told him, he would have thought it impossible, but witnessing it with his own eyes almost made him faint. Light sat on his throne and ordered everyone to raise their heads and display their stats. That was the power he had built over the last 3 years. Fear completely took over Guru, and even his fur turned white. Then, Light repeated the question. If a war began, would he be able to defeat the surface nations? Guru remained silent, but his expression already revealed the answer. As a reward, Light announced that he would keep him imprisoned in a state of eternal despair, so that he could experience suffering worse than death. In his thoughts, Guru reached a terrifying conclusion: Light could destroy everything in an instant. To him, that man was the true Lord of Destruction. With difficulty, he asked if Light planned to become a god. The boy replied with a faint smile, saying that wasn't a bad idea. Then he added that the real question was, what kind of god would he become? A god of kindness or a god of fury? He said that, depending on what he found along his path, he could bring happiness and prosperity or spread death and despair. And he concluded that, as for the kind of god he would become, he would let the world itself decide. He declared that the time had come to go to the surface, to leave the darkness behind and walk toward the light. Already on the surface, Light runs with excitement, eager to see his family after so long. But his heart shatters when he discovers that his hometown has been completely destroyed. Even so, he refuses to lose hope. He didn't find his siblings' bodies among the dead, and he believes they might still be alive, dreaming of the moment they can meet again. Gold approaches and asks if Light is all right. The boy says he is, and then Gold suggests they keep moving. as he doesn't want to camp outdoors on their very first day outside the abyss. Nimemu scolds him, saying he shouldn't speak that way to his master while he's still mourning. But Gold replies that everything he does is for Light's sake, and unless she wants to see him spend an uncomfortable night, it's best to avoid sleeping in the open. Thinking about it, Nimemu ends up agreeing. Light interrupts them, saying they can look for a place to stay later. For him, the most important thing right now is to gather information. Even though he has enough power to face the nations on the surface, that doesn't mean they should march straight into war. He is convinced that the destruction of his city is connected to the fact that he's a master. An aura of energy surrounds him, and he questions in his mind the true value of a master, trying to understand what makes it so important that it justifies so much bloodshed. If he discovers that the truth behind it all is twisted and cruel, he vows to turn the surface world into a blazing hell. Gold comments that it would be best for Light to contain his anger when they're in a city since his aura alone can be deadly. The boy apologizes and then pulls out a card, the Mask of the Fool. Before moving on, he silently bids farewell to his parents, promising never to forget everything they did for him. While flying, Nimemu asks what Light's plans are from now on. He replies that while they're on the surface, they should call him Dark. His goal is to register with the Adventurers Guild and climb the ranks by completing missions. That way, he can gather information about the other members of the Concordative tribes. For now, he just wants to focus on raising his ranking. The servants agree, and soon they spot the city of Dagas. Dark decides to land a bit before reaching it and continue the rest of the way on foot to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. Further ahead, they find a group of dwarves trying to rob a father and his son. The thieves quickly notice the shine of Gold's armor, but before they can react, Dark orders Nimemu and Gold to deal with them. In no time, all the dwarves are captured and tied up. The man thanks them profusely and offers them a ride to Dagas. During the trip, the boy beside his father excitedly says that they're incredibly strong. He had never seen a human defeat dwarves so easily. The man assumes the group plans to explore the local dungeon, but Dark denies it, saying they're only aspiring adventurers. The father and son are surprised by his answer. Dark explains that the real reason for their journey is to register with the guild and raise their own rank. The man smiles and says they're heading to the right place. He explains that Dagas lies south of the Dwarven Kingdom, east of the Human Kingdom, and west of the Elven Kingdom. Despite the conflicts among these nations, the city's dungeon is famous for its quality, attracting countless adventurers and making the place prosperous even with its rural appearance. Since there are many humans there, he's able to run an inn especially for them. When they arrive at the city gates, the group steps off the cart to continue on foot. The man introduces himself as Colonel and bids them farewell, wishing them good luck. Nimemu and Gold are amazed to see what a surface city looks like. When they arrive at the guild, Dark notices the large number of humans trying to become adventurers. However, he quickly realizes that even there, they continue to face discrimination from the other races. After completing the registration, Nimemu refuses to accept that Dark received an F-rank classification. She insists that he should be ranked far above his rank. The receptionist tries to explain that all adventurers must start from the bottom, but Nimemu insists. Then, Dark removes his hood, apologizes on behalf of his companion, and calmly accepts the F rank. Outside, Nimemu cries, asking for forgiveness for embarrassing him. After that, they head to Colonel's Inn. The man is happy to welcome them and tells them not to hesitate to ask if they need anything. Dark requests to rent the entire upper floor for a month and asks that no one go up there during their stay. He hands over a bag of coins and asks if the amount is enough. Colonel tries to refuse, saying he can't accept money from those who saved his and his son's lives. But Dark insists humbly until he accepts. In the room, Dark uses the cards of silence, magic block, and detection, ensuring they can rest without worrying about magical surveillance. Nimemu comments that she understands why he came to the surface, but reminds him that, no matter how powerful he is, there's always a risk of getting hurt up there. She suggests he could have stayed in the abyss, where it was safer, and let them handle everything here. Her words infuriate Dark, and his energy begins to spread throughout the room. He asks if she's trying to exclude him from his own plan for revenge. Immediately, Nememu kneels and begs for forgiveness. Gold steps in, trying to calm things down, saying that some things, no matter how dangerous, can only be resolved by the person themselves. Dark composes himself and apologizes, realizing that Nememu only meant to protect him. Even so, she remains distressed and asks to renew her vow of loyalty. He allows it, and she kneels before him, kissing his foot and once again swearing eternal fidelity. The next morning, the group heads straight to the dungeon. When they arrive, they're surprised by the size of the line. Observing the movement, Gold comments that there aren't any elves around. Dark explains that it's because the Elven Kingdom is at war with the dwarves, disputing the rights over that dungeon. Soon after, 3 people cut ahead in line. A group of human boys notice it, but are too afraid to complain, thinking the intruders are from the Dragonute race. Seeing the scene, Dark decides to intervene, saying that it's disrespectful to cut the line. One of the men gets angry and prepares to attack, but his companion stops him, saying he shouldn't reveal his sword there. With no choice, they return to the end of the line. Everyone was excited about what Dark had done. The group of boys thanked him for stepping in. They wanted to react, but were afraid of causing trouble. Dark replied that it was nothing, that he just did what he thought was right. He said that, in the end, stopping someone from cutting the line was a matter of common sense, since it affected everyone waiting. One of the boys, curious, asked if Gold's armor was really made of gold. Many people around also seemed eager to know. Nememu explained that it wasn't, and added that forging armor from such a weak metal would be useless. Gold only used that color as a symbol of his loyalty to the Knight's Code. The group's leader asked if it was their first time in that dungeon. Dark confirmed and wanted to know how he could tell. The boy replied that it was easy to notice because the dungeon's floors were huge, and everyone who explored it carried camping gear inside. But Dark's group had nothing like that. Soon, the dungeon gatekeeper called the boys to enter. Dark commented to his group that they needed to be more careful. They always used an item box, which made them forget to bring some luggage, something that could draw unnecessary attention. Shortly after, it was their turn to go in. As they descended, Dark commented that it was his first time in a dungeon other than the Abyss. He found it curious how these structures existed in so many places, with such different shapes and sizes. However, he knew the key to understanding this mystery lay in each dungeon's core, though even Ellie had failed to analyze them. Each dungeon practically had its own world, with unique creatures and environments. He then activated 3 cards: Clairvoyance, to locate the path to the next floor; Concealment, to avoid being detected by enemies; and Escape, to move along the shortest route. Gold complained that it made things boring, but admitted it was a practical strategy to reach their goal faster. Meanwhile, the man who had argued with Dark earlier revealed himself to be an elf. Enraged by the humiliation he had suffered, he slaughtered several orcs with brutality. His name was Kaido, a legendary hero who carried the blood of a master. Yanok tried to calm him down, saying they were there to hunt the trolls on the 3rd floor, and that wasting time on weak orcs was foolish. But Kaido remained angry, believing he had been disrespected because of his level, which he considered low. Yanok countered, saying that a level of 1500 was far from insignificant. In fact, it was impressive even among elves. Pretending to sympathize, he claimed to understand how Kaido felt since he too had been exiled by those who couldn't comprehend his research. With a disguised smile and a dark tone, he said his studies could help Kaido increase his level. Kaido, however, didn't trust him. In his thoughts, he decided that as soon as the Dark Elf fulfilled his promise, he would be eliminated without mercy. Meanwhile, Dark and his group had already defeated all the trolls on the 3rd floor. They planned to take only the monster's magic crystals as proof that they had truly reached that point in the dungeon. On their way back, they saw the group of human boys fighting some goblins. Their teamwork wasn't bad, but Dark appeared and commented that they needed to keep their full focus on the enemies. Then, he pointed out an important detail while they were fighting. They hadn't noticed a forest snake sneaking up on them. He defeated it before it could cause any trouble. He explained that the snake's bite wasn't fatal, but it would paralyze someone for a few seconds, enough to break the group's formation completely. Moments later, Dark and his companions sensed a presence approaching. A pack of monstrous wolves came running through the forest. The boys panicked and shouted for everyone to run. But Dark realized that the wolves posed no real threat, they were simply running past them, fleeing from something far worse. A few seconds later, the reason appeared. An enormous monstrous grasshopper emerged before them, and it became clear that it was from this creature that the wolves had been running in terror. The boys, in total despair, commented that that monster called Quadscythe should have been extinct 10 years ago. One of them asked Mia to cast a spell on the monster, trying to throw it off balance so they could escape. Dark, staying calm, asked if their group minded if his team faced the Quadscythe, since they planned to run away. The boy, still panicked, replied that fighting that creature was the same as signing their own death sentence, insisting that the best option was to run back and warn the guild. Before they could decide, the Quadscythe charged at them. Gold reacted immediately and jumped into direct combat, exchanging blows with the monster. He stepped back a few steps, surprised by the resistance of the creature's size. His heavy attacks didn't leave a single scratch on them. It was then that Dark fired a fire arrow, but the strike was easily deflected by the monster. Mia, startled, asked her brother if he had seen what Dark had done. The boy didn't understand at first, and she explained that Dark had used a combat class spell without chanting, something that should be impossible. Gold laughed and began to explain that a true knight must use their weapons wisely on the battlefield. At that moment, the monster attacked him, but he remained calm and demonstrated a lesson to them. You just had to wait for the right moment to counterattack. He showed how even a shield can become a powerful weapon if used at the right time, and that surprising the enemy with a strong blow is the secret to victory. Dark then asked Gold to fall back, saying it was his turn to act. He fired the fire arrow again, but this time he controlled each one to prevent the monster from deflecting the attack. Mia was even more impressed when she noticed that he was controlling 30 arrows at the same time. Realizing it had no chance of winning, the Quadscythe tried to flee. Dark thought it was smart for trying to escape, but told himself that it wouldn't work. He cast the spell Wall of Flames, blocking the escape route. Mia was shocked that was a tactical class spell, and he had cast it without reciting chants. As a last attempt, the monster flew up, but Nemumu, who had already anticipated it, jumped and knocked it down with a single blow. Gold, as always, complained, saying that because of her, they wouldn't be able to salvage much of the monster's body to sell. The girl panicked and apologized to Dark. Meanwhile, the other group watched the scene in disbelief. They had just seen a Quadscythe defeated by only 3 people. Later, one of the boys found the monster's gem. Dark was pleased, saying that the core could increase their ranking. The group leader asked if they were high-level adventurers, maybe Class B, or even S, but Dark replied that they were just beginners of rank F, leaving everyone shocked. Mia used water magic so they could wash their hands, and Dark thanked her for the gesture. The group leader said they were the ones who should thank them for being saved and offered shelter for them to spend the night at their camp. Dark tried to refuse, but the boy insisted, saying his sister wanted to talk to him about magic, so he accepted. During dinner, Dark told an invented story about how he learned magic, saying his parents were mages and taught him everything he knew. The girl was delighted, believing that this was why he was so powerful, but Dark said that when it came to magic, Mia also had a lot of talent. She blushed, saying she couldn't cast tactical spells or use spells without chanting. Her brother, curious, asked if that was really something so impressive. Mia, a little nervous, explained that yes, it was. She said that there were 3 classes of mages. The combat class focused on simple spells like fire arrow or ice sword. The tactical class, which focuses on large-scale spells, like the Wall of Fire Dark had used. And the strategy class, responsible for spells capable of altering the world like meteors, tsunamis, or earthquakes. This type of spell required several mages to join forces. She also commented that for magical races like dragonoids, elves, and dark elves, this kind of magic was natural. But for humans, it was almost impossible. For that reason, the fact that Dark could cast spells without chanting made him practically a living legend. Gold and Nemumu agreed with her. Mia's brother asked her not to belittle herself, reminding her that she had been recommended to the best magic school in the principality, and that he believed she would one day master tactical spells as well. Gold was surprised to hear that. Elio revealed that although his sister had been accepted, she couldn't attend the classes because their parents died during an epidemic, leaving them alone. For that reason, he and their childhood friends, Gimra and Wordy, became adventurers to survive. Elio said he hoped to save enough money so Mia could study and fulfill her dream. Mia, worried, asked him and their friends to be careful. Watching the affection between the siblings, Dark remembered his own younger sister and encouraged them to believe in themselves. Mia, blushing, thought it was an exaggeration, but Dark assured her his praise was sincere, which made her gain a little more confidence. Then Elio asked why Dark had become an adventurer. He said that his family had died in a fire. Nimumu added that Dark had suffered several burns and that they were looking for a potion to ease his pain. She and Gold were accompanying him as a way to repay the help they had received from his family in the past. The story left the group in silence. Gimra tried to break the mood, asking if Nimumu and Gold were married. Nimumu answered immediately, saying she would never fall in love with that golden tin can. Gold agreed, saying he preferred more mature women. Meanwhile, in another part of the dungeon, Kaido defeated a monster while Yanok praised him. Irritated, Kaido replied that his legendary sword, Grandius, was not made to face second-rate creatures. Yanok tried to calm him, reminding him that they needed monster samples for their research on how to break the level limit. With the samples in hand, he said that the next step would be to collect human samples. Kaido opened a twisted smile and announced that the hunt had begun. A few days later, Dark returned to the guild carrying several resources obtained in the dungeon. The receptionist was impressed with the amount of materials and praised his achievements, while Nemumu reinforced that she had already said her master deserved a rank above rank S. Dark asked about the payment, and the woman suggested he take the opportunity to have lunch while waiting. As they left the guild, his companions noticed the change in the way people treated them. In the streets, everyone talked about the group that had defeated the Quad Scythe, which made Dark feel satisfied with the fame they were earning. Suddenly, they were approached by two adventurers who asked if Dark was part of the Black Motley clan. Confused, he listened to Suvalin's explanation. That was the name people had given to his group. Nimumu stepped forward, keeping a firm and wary posture. They quickly assured they had no bad intentions and introduced themselves as Suvalin and Gilbert. Suvalin asked how Dark had managed to reach the 5th floor of the dungeon and defeat the Quad Scythe, but Gilbert showed doubt in his expression. Annoyed by the suspicion, Nemumu raised her dagger and demanded to know if he was calling her master a liar. Before the tension escalated, Suvalin intervened with a nervous smile, explaining they had only come to congratulate them. He commented that after seeing such a powerful group of humans, many adventurers had regained hope. Soon after, Suvalin's group called him back, and he politely said goodbye. A little farther away, adventurers of other races laughed and mocked the humans, saying it was foolish to believe in something like that. Gold, hearing the comments, only murmured that their group would continue showing results until there was no doubt left about their strength. The scene shifted to the inside of the dungeon, where Dark said he would head straight to the 5th floor. On the way, they spotted Elio's group. They descended to greet them, and Mia's brother encouraged her to give something to Dark, a small jar of cream she had prepared to ease burn pain. She explained, a little embarrassed, that she learned to make the remedy from her grandmother, and that it didn't completely heal, but reduced the pain. Dark hesitated for a moment, which made Mia believe he would refuse. However, he smiled gently and accepted the gift, deciding to return the gesture. With a motion of his hand, he summoned a card that transformed into a beautiful gleaming bracelet and offered it to her. Mia blushed, trying to refuse, but Dark insisted until she accepted. Feeling shy, she promised she would keep the gift forever. Later, Nemumu asked if it had really been a good idea to give the girl his SSR-ranked Miraculo's bracelet in exchange for a simple homemade ointment. Gold calmly replied that when someone sincerely wishes for something, that bracelet can perform miracles. To him, Dark did the right thing by returning the girl's gesture with sincerity. Nemumu, reflecting on that, realized that not everything in life was about value. The 5th floor of the dungeon was rarely explored, and the surrounding snow created perfect camouflage. To Gold, that environment was ideal for someone who wished to remain hidden. Dark agreed and said he would leave the hunt for the Yetis to them, teleporting back to his kingdom shortly after. There, he was greeted with reverence by his attendants. Mei led him to the tea room and asked how his adventure on the surface had gone. He replied that it had gone well and asked about the preparations for his revenge plan. Ellie informed him that everything was almost ready, and Light authorized the use of all necessary resources. He then asked Mei to continue managing the abyss in his absence and told Aoyuki to continue exploring the forest. Mizuna, curious, wanted to know what her special mission would be, knowing she was the least skilled for complex tasks. Light ordered that her only role would be to keep everyone safe there. With the plan nearly complete, Light raised the cup to his lips and slowly drank his tea, consumed by a thought the anticipation of destroying Sasha. Meanwhile, Suvalin's group was resting on the 3rd floor of the dungeon. Suvalin asked Gilbert what he thought of the rumors about Light, and his companion replied that he still had his doubts. Suvalin reminded him that Mia had personally seen him defeat the Quad Scythe, and that made Gilbert reconsider. He commented that if that story was true, maybe Light really was the reincarnation of a legendary hero. Suvalin, hopeful, said that if Dark's power was real, maybe this could put an end to discrimination against humans. Later, Suvalin stepped away a little to take care of personal needs and, upon returning, was shocked by the scene before him. Gilbert and the rest of his group were dead. Kaido was there, waiting impatiently for his return, clearly irritated. Seeing his fallen companions, Suvalin understood he stood no chance against that elf. With contempt, Kaido stepped on Gilbert's head just to provoke him. Even faced with the provocation, Suvalin remained calm and threw a smoke bomb. Trying to escape, he ran as much as he could, believing the elf wouldn't be able to see him through the smoke, but was surprised when Kaido struck him with a precise blow, knocking him to the ground. Soon after, Yanok appeared, hitting him with his staff and leaving him unconscious. He scolded Kaido, complaining that he needed the humans alive for his experiments. Kaido replied indifferently, saying he had left one alive, and that was enough. Yanok, irritated, retorted that he needed more, since the tests almost never worked on the first attempt. Meanwhile, Dark's group delivered a large amount of resources to the guild, and Nemamu insisted that the receptionist promote Dark to a rank above rank S. However, the receptionist explained that they had already made an exception by raising them from rank F to D. If they wanted to advance again, they would need to accomplish a truly grand feat. After hearing that, Dark headed to his room. There, he analyzed a mission that involved capturing a killer who attacked humans exclusively. He knew he couldn't ignore that situation, and besides, that mission could be exactly the feat needed to rise in rank. However, before he could do anything, a portal suddenly opened, and Mia fell before him, gravely injured. At the same moment, the bracelet he had given her broke. Dark immediately used magic to heal her and then cast a spell to access her memories, trying to understand what had happened. In the memories, Mia and her group had been warned by other adventurers about the presence of a killer in the dungeon, whose targets were only humans. Faced with that, Elio decided they needed to leave as quickly as possible. Even exhausted after so many hours walking, they knew they had no other choice. Suddenly, Kaido's group appeared. Mia asked her brother to warn the others about the killer, and Elio explained the situation. Yanok, irritated, commented that they had been discovered too quickly. Kaido drew his sword and stated that this would be the last group of insects he would eliminate that day. Even terrified, Elio ordered his sister to run while he and the others tried to hold off the enemies. Elio rushed to attack, but he was struck in the stomach and fell. Gimra and Wordy also charged at Kaido, but they didn't stand a chance. Desperate, Mia watched everything unfold. Wordy managed to stand up and shouted for her to escape. Gimra also got up, and both tried to attack again. But this time Kaido was even more brutal, leaving them both unconscious. Yanok complained, saying he needed them alive for his experiments. Kaido told Yanok to be quiet and stated that he had left the human girl alive. Yanok agreed that a human mage was extremely valuable, but pointed out that the others would also be useful. Kaido promised to be more careful next time and began approaching Miya, saying he intended to have fun with her before handing her over to Yanok's experiments. The scientist replied that he didn't care, as long as she remained alive. The girl became desperate and begged him to stay away. At that moment, Ilio, even gravely injured, managed to stand and ordered his sister to run. When noticing he still had strength, Yanok asked Kaido not to kill him, as he would be an excellent specimen for his experiments. Ilio thought to himself that he was practically dead already, but he needed to give everything he had to ensure his sister had a chance to escape. He looked at Miya and gave a faint smile. Then, Miya stood up and ran as fast as she could. Kaido tried to pursue her, but Ilio intercepted him. The young man remembered Gold's advice about being creative in combat. Thus, he threw his sword at Kaido. The elf dodged, but that was exactly what Ilio expected. Taking advantage of the opening, he hit Kaido in the face with his shield, knocking him to the ground. Laughing, Ilio called him a loser. Furious for having been struck by a human, Kaido unleashed a magical ability from his sword, piercing Ilio's stomach. He intended to make him suffer more than death. But Yanok interrupted him, telling him to go after the human girl, because if she alerted the guild, they would be in great danger. While running, Miya could only think that she needed to tell someone what had happened. But Kaido reached her quickly. Determined not to give up after what her brother and her friends had done for her, Miya cast a spell, creating ice blades and firing them. However, that had no effect at all against Kaido. She tried to flee, but was struck in the leg. Kaido said she should stop trying to escape and be grateful that a hero was interested in her. Miya replied that he was not a hero, but a coward who attacked the weak. Kaido recalled that other elves said the same things, mocking him for being expelled from the Knight's Guard and for being stuck at his level, being considered a failure with no future. That filled him with rage, and he tried to kill her. Miya, terrified, thought she could not die there, that she needed to reach Dark and tell everything. It was at that moment that the power of the bracelet activated, bringing her to him. Dark, consumed by intense anger, immediately called his companions. Meanwhile, Yanok used healing magic to keep Ilio alive, planning to use him in his experiments. Kaido returned and became confused when he noticed that Miya was not there, as he believed she would come back to try to save her brother. Yanok was shocked that Kaido had allowed a human to escape, but Kaido justified that the girl had a teleportation item. That left Yanok in panic, because if Miya reached the guild and told what she saw, surely the Elven Kingdom would be informed. And soon they would discover that Kaido was the one who stole Grandius. If that happened, the White Knights would come after them. The captain of the Knights was above level 3000, and his subordinates had levels close to 2000, all equipped with weapons as powerful as Grandius. Kaido began to fall into despair at that possibility, but Yanok tried to reassure him, saying that when he finished his experiment and broke the level limit, there would be nothing to worry about. The thought of surpassing his limits brought some relief to Kaido, as he believed that not even the White Knights would be able to defeat him in that state. Yanok then called him to flee immediately. At that moment, Dark arrived and declared that they would not escape. He approached the bodies on the ground and closed the eyes of Gimra and Wordy respectfully. Gold informed him that Ilio still showed signs of life, which surprised Yanok, who could not understand how they had taken the boy from near him without him noticing. Dark approached and cast a healing spell on Ilio. Indignant, Dark questioned why those children had to suffer like that. He reflected that they faced a cruel world full of prejudice, doing their best to live an honest life while still supporting Miya's dreams. Filled with fury, he stated that they would pay for what they had done. Yanok tried to lie, saying they were only trying to help and that he himself had provided first aid to Ilio. But Dark cut off his act, revealing that the girl they were chasing was with him. However, he said they didn't need to worry because he had no intention of telling anything to the guild. Kaido laughed, saying that it was enough to eliminate Dark, his companions, and Miya to solve the situation. Dark declared that he would not inform the guild because he intended to make them experience a pain worse than death himself. He asked Gold and Nemomu to stay out of the fight and began advancing toward Kaido. The elf launched an attack, but Dark blocked it easily. Yanok was shocked to see a human stop a blow from Kaido. Trying again, Kaido attacked, but Dark counterattacked with a punch to the stomach, knocking him to the ground. Dark mocked him, saying he hoped he was stronger, because he could end up killing him by accident. Kaido got up furious and activated the power of his sword, unleashing multiple magical attacks. While dodging, Dark noticed that the attacks had different elemental attributes. Kaido attempted a surprise attack but failed again. Frustrated, Kaido stated that Dark was a warrior pretending to be a mage. Dark replied that he really was a mage, but Kaido insisted it was impossible, because no mage could fight on equal terms with him. To prove the contrary, Dark conjured the spell Ice Swords without reciting any incantation. Kaido tried to attack again using the power of the Grandiose Sword, but Dark destroyed every attack with precision using the ice lances. Kaido, in complete despair, began screaming that it made no sense. He said he was destined to be a hero, that he was wielding Grandiose, a sword summoned by a master, and that someone like him could not be defeated. Dark then asked how Kaido knew about the maestro. Laughing arrogantly, Kaido replied that it was obvious, because he had the blood of a maestro running through his body, and that was why everyone called him a sub-maestro. Upon hearing those words, Dark decides to change his plans. He informs Gold and Nemamu that he will take both of them to the Abyss, where he intends to extract all the information directly from their minds. Gold and Nemamu had gone to capture Yanok, but the Dark Elf reveals that the two porters who accompanied him were actually deformed creatures, the result of hybrid experiments between humans and monsters. Dark recognizes the face of one of them and becomes irritated, ordering Gold and Nemamu to end the suffering of those transformed people. The two attack believing they had won, but soon realize that the creatures are capable of regenerating. Yanok declares proudly, in thought, that they would have to do much better if they wanted to defeat his hybrids. Nemamu and Gold admit to themselves that, in a normal fight, it would indeed be troublesome to face enemies like that, but they decide to use their special techniques. With that, they manage to put an end to the torment of those lives that were no longer human. Yanok is stunned and falls into despair when he realizes that his creatures are not regenerating, and Nemamu knocks him out with a precise kick to a very sensitive spot. Meanwhile, Dark continues his confrontation with Kaido, firmly questioning why the elf was cowering now, when before he had shown such courage. Kaido remembers Elio mocking him, calling him a failure, and rage consumes him. He unleashes the full power of the Grandiose Sword, which now moves as if it were a whip. Dark acknowledges that the attack is indeed interesting, but still considers it useless. Dodging with ease, Kaido states, full of frustration, that Dark only says that because he can dodge, for if he were hit, he would die instantly. Wanting to demonstrate his superiority, Dark stops where he is, stretches out his arms, and tells Kaido to attack, stating that he will remain still. Kaido charges forward saying that Dark will regret his arrogance, but his strike does not even cause a scratch on Dark's clothing. The elf cannot believe what he sees and begins attacking uncontrollably, until Dark strikes him with a punch to the stomach and another to the face, throwing him far away. When Dark approaches, Kaido's behavior changes completely. He kneels and begs for mercy. He says he will tell Dark everything he wants to know and would even hand him the Grandiose Sword. Dark asks, with disdain, if he is really giving up after all that talk about being a destined hero. He thinks that a true hero is someone who faces all difficulties and stands by their goals, like Elio, Gimra, and Wordy, who did everything they could to protect Mia. Dark states that he will give him a chance. If Kaido manages to at least scratch him, he will let him go. However, the elf turns his back and runs away in desperation. Dark simply summons a solar lightning card and pierces his leg. Then he approaches and declares that Mia was right when she said Kaido was nothing but a coward who liked to harm the weak, but when facing someone strong, looked like a frightened little dog. After that, Dark apologizes to Gimra and Wordy, saying that he will need to bury them in the abyss, because he could not leave their bodies there to be devoured by monsters. He then activates the teleportation magic and returns directly to his castle. Shortly after, his vassals arrive. Light explains what happened, and they all express a desire to make Kaido and Yanok suffer fates worse than death itself. But Light states that they cannot kill them, for he needs to discover everything they know. After that, he asks Gold to tend to Elio's wounds and calls Nimamu to accompany him to the place where he will bury Gimra and Wordy. Kaido and Yanok, desperate, beg for mercy, trying to blame each other. Light, however, simply asks himself how many humans begged for mercy when they were attacked by them, and concludes that now they are receiving the same treatment they gave to others. The scene then shifts to Mia waking up. She asks where she is, and Dark explains that she is at the inn where her group had been staying. He mentions that they were all traveling through the dungeon on a mission to capture the adventurer killer. Mia asks about the others, and Dark shows that her brother is safe. When she asks about Gimra and Wordy, Dark hands her a small handful of hair strands, saying that it was the only thing he managed to recover. Mia begins to cry and thanks Dark for everything. He leaves the room, letting her be alone. The next day, the receptionist informs Dark's group that they can advance to rank C, thanks to the fact that he revealed the killers were an elf and a dark elf, and that he saved 2 victims. Dark simply thanks her for the news. Later that night, Elio and Mia say that they have decided to return to their hometown. They say that it was their friends who convinced them to become adventurers, and that they cannot imagine forming a new group with other people. Mia comments that she will not go to the Magic Academy, but that she will study on her own, promising that when she meets Dark again, she will be a true mage. The next morning, the two depart. Dark watches the group carefully, commenting that on the day he can reveal the whole truth, he will take them to visit the graves of Gimra and Wordy. After that, he returns to the Abyss. May and Ellie were already waiting for him, holding a complete report of the investigation carried out in the memories of Yanok and Kaido. According to the information found, the sub-maestro mentioned by Kaido is a title given to those who have blood ties with a maestro, and who, because of that, are known to level up more easily than others. In addition, the report also mentions an ancient belief stating that the world could face a great disaster if a maestro were not properly controlled. Light wonders whether this belief would still apply in the case where only one maestro exists free to make his own decisions. He then asks the two what they think about it. The girls explain that this information came from a conversation Kaido had with the captain of the White Knights, so it is difficult to draw any conclusion at that moment. Light asks how Kaido and Yanok are. Ellie shows the condition they are in, and Light decides the time has come to end them. He uses an SS rank card called the Dead Man's Banquet, definitively ending both of their lives. Soon after, he asks how the plan is progressing. Ellie informs him that the revenge plan against the elf named Sasha can be initiated at any moment. She explains that everything will begin with the capture of the White Knights members, since all of them seem to be sub-maestros. The vice leader of the group is also Sasha's fiancé. Light becomes excited upon hearing this, finding the plan even more interesting. Meanwhile, Sasha talks with her fiancé, commenting on how amusing she found Light's expression when he discovered he had been betrayed. Mikhail replies that he also takes pleasure in tormenting humans. He says that he has participated in inspections with the objective of annihilating human villages, and that he always found it funny to see humans begging for their lives. He says he is happy to have met Sasha, because the two share the same taste for mistreating humans, and that he never imagined he would meet a girl who had that kind of interest. At that moment, Light wonders what Sasha's expression of despair will look like when she sees him alive again. He imagines whether she will be as desperate as Garu, and that thought makes him even more determined. And so we finish the 7th episode of the anime Shinjaitida Nakama Takai Nai Dungeon Okuchi. If you want the continuation of the next episodes, leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep receiving the next videos. See you next time.